Welcome to Trading Lounge and the Australian report, and starting with the ASX 200 here on the daily chart. In a bit of a nutshell, we've been looking at this trend moving up through here in the US markets and also the European markets, and we're expecting a top in play here. It does appear that the European markets are really struggling with their move up and can be finished, and we'll have a quick look at that. But also the US markets appear to have another little move to the upside. So if I can just drag across the S&P here for a moment on the hourly chart here, it appears that from this low here, we're looking at 1 and 2 here, and then 1 and 2, and a third, fourth, and fifth for the third wave, a fourth wave that pulls back to the 38.2% retracement level, and then another fifth wave, the fifth wave to move up here higher. So in this case, we need to stay with this. If this, say, the 2750 here becomes a retested resistance here, and the market moves lower from here, then we've got a problem at this point. And this would be also the same for the European markets as well. I've just got the FTSE sitting here, but the DAX is the same as well, in that its move up through here. It's not a very sort of clear wave count up through here, but I can get 5 waves out of it. But the point is that this leg up through here and the move back here is on this trend line through here, and also on the 61.8% mark here. Currently, we could view this down here as an A and a B and a C wave. It'll move lower first to finish that off, but then we would need to see it move up from that point. So if it moves up from that point, we can look to go along on the 7300 here. But at the same time, if we see that this moves down here even further, really through this 61.8%, then we've got a bearish move here. And I'll bring up the DAX, because the FTSE and the DAX obviously have relationships with the rest of the world, including us. So this is the DAX here, and the main reason I'm showing this here is because we can see that the move up here has really struggled to move up. And yes, I can get 5 waves out of it, so it can be complete. But the thing is that if I can get 5 waves up here, then this might be just wave 1 here and wave 2 at this point here, and then it can move up from here, and a third and a fourth and a fifth up into its box here, into its 61.8% mark here. So I don't know that. So what I'm just suggesting is that we keep an eye on this level here for the FTSE and the DAX at this point, and let's just see how they travel. I mean, they're retesting large numbers at the moment on the negative side, so they're in that bearish mode. So we wouldn't go long unless we had a nice support on the 12.5 or one of these highs got breached here. But yeah, look, it is struggling. You can see that it's struggling, but it's got its first resistance of this level yet. So it's kind of hasn't failed totally, but it's its first little resistance. So let's just see if it gets a second retest and how that goes. But be mindful that any further drop down, say through the 12,400 here, then we've got some issues at that point. Then I'll just, good old trend line can come in sort of handy, but that's all done and dusted there. So we're on the negative side of that trend line now as well. So yeah, just keep an eye on those. And so we've got negative for the European markets in that regard, but we've still got a possible positive side for the S&P here, and even the Dow Jones here as well. So we just need to be mindful of this. We also know that, well, in Asia as well, is that we can have Wednesday and Thursdays as the corrective days, and then if we can survive those, then we'll see Friday and Monday be the bullish day. So Wednesday is a bit of a V-shaped day where it's down in the morning and up in the afternoon, and then Thursdays is a bearish day. So we do also need to be careful within here as well. We're seeing China make a move down here too. So on the China daily chart here, we can see that we've hit our target to the top side here, and we've moved down in a very large move in the last session. So there is not all markets top together, as you know, but there's certainly weakness coming in, and we need to be mindful of sort of where we are here. So on one of the counts here on the tick chart, I can actually count a top in play here. Okay, but if we looked at the US markets, then we'd need another one down and a move up here. And because we had this long, strong move in here, let's say, okay, that can certainly act as a third wave within this space here. So in that case, we could see a move back onto support here at 6,000 before seeing a move up through here over the Wednesday and the Thursday in this space here. So look, it's really a time to just to be a little bit mindful of what's occurring here at the moment. It's corrective. If you went short, you may get trapped. We don't have a setup to go short yet, and being short above the closest largest number. I mean, if we're under that and it was retesting it, then by all means we look to short it at that point. But last time we spoke, our target to the upside was Group 2, just before the 6100 here. So when I go into the tick chart here, so now we've really got to get sort of strategy sort of happening in a sense. So when we spoke last time, we were over here, and we were looking, or somewhere over here, and we were looking for a move to move higher into this Group 2 space here, and we've got that now. So for me, it's possible to have a top in play here. The only thing that sort of bothers me about that a little bit is that this is quite a strong move all through here. So maybe I know that if I go back to the hourly chart, and we'll come back to this in here. If I go back to the hourly chart in here, a lot of this price action in here hasn't really made a lot of sense. So I'm not really quite sure where to label it. I mean, all for I know is that the A wave here could be sitting up here, and this B wave could be all the way across to here. So I've been unsure about this, but we've used the levels, and we've taken our signals, and we've chipped away at the trend, and we've done all the right things. So at this stage here, this move down through here can be counted as a corrective ABC pullback, or it can be counted as an impulse just starting to the upside. I mean, even if you did short it through here, obviously the banks are going to be be correct. They showed weakness yesterday, of course, and that will carry through on the open, so it will drag this index down a bit. Let's just go back to the tick chart here again and just talk about this a little bit. So as it stands at the moment from the top here, I can count this as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then 5 waves down here for wave 1 here, or wave A, and then an A and a B and a C here for wave B, and then I'd count this all the way down here for wave C, or all of this down here for wave 1 here, that's pulled back 61.8% here. So if this low gets taken out here, then this ABC that I've got here, then that's not correct, and that certainly looks like the case, doesn't it? But just I had to put it in and point it out. So once that low's breached there, then we can go into our bearish count. And if we're going into our bearish count, then this is how it would look here with wave 1 here, wave 2 here, and then moving down into wave 3 here. Of course, we will have to move these across here somewhat. So the other point that making here is that, like, we're in this 10, 20 and 30 here, as I've mentioned before, most of the time that moving down into this space here as 3, 2, 1 here, the market tends to get a bit choppy and bounce around. A market will move quite quickly between the numbers 3, the 30 here, and the 50, and also from the 50 to the 80, well, the 72 to the 50, so in both directions here. So that's where it moves quicker. So if you're scalping and things, they're the numbers that you want to trade between, and just be a little bit careful between, especially coming down, because it bounces. If it comes down to 2, it can bounce back to 3, and it gets really sort of choppy within all of that. So you need to give it wider stops and have a different strategy between those particular numbers. If the other point here too, if the 20 here, 60-20 here, the 2, the number, the pivot, I call it, within group 1 here, if that becomes the retested resistance, then you're likely to see the market down at the 66,000 at that stage, the next closest largest number. And then it's all about this number here. So so as it stands at the moment, that's sort of how it looks. To turn bullish again in the whole market, to go to the upside at this particular stage here, from that low, from that high to this low, that's the 50-60% retracement level. So really we would need that space there as support and not resistance to go long. I know that's sort of a long way from up this space here, but just to point that out in the first instance. And the second instance is that you trade the levels. So if the 50 became a nice tested support, well then you'd go along from that point. It may not get very far, and that's something that you'd have to accommodate at that stage. Also, too, going bullish earlier than that, taking this next step from here. Let's just say that we get a double bottom here for whatever reasons. Then the other point here is that you couldn't go long until you had that as support here, and then you would look at the closest largest number there. So we could look at the 40 if the 40 became a really nice support. So when you got 40, then you've got the micro levels after that. So it would have group 1, so it would have 41, 42 and 43. So 43 would be as tested support, would be the long trade, or you can also go 43.3 there as it is there. So you can go long from that point there. So in a bit of a nutshell, the first long trade would come in at 43, 6,043. Otherwise, anything from that would just be a bounce to see further downside at that stage. So I'm just bringing logic into place here. And the banks, as they've been moving up quite strongly, would also be obviously seeing some profit taking. So in the bullish weekly cycle, we see Wednesday and Thursdays as the days that take out our stops, and they're the days we need to make choices before we get to that space, and those choices may not always be right, but at least you've made them beforehand and you can live with them without getting into the game of happiness and sorrow of being right and wrong. All right, I'm just going to leave it at that at this stage. Alrighty, cheers.